Welcome to the third of 4 learning collaborative meetings that we're conducting as part of our NIDA-funded HEAL J-Coin project. For those of you who attended our kickoff meeting in May or our virtual meeting that we held back in August, welcome back. I'm Shannon Gwynn Mitchell, and I'm one of the principal investigators on the project from Friends Research Institute. I'll be serving as moderator for the presentations at today's meeting. We have 3 great topics to discuss, so I'll try and keep us on time in case we have colleagues that are able to join for only part of the meeting. Today's agenda is on the slide in front of you with our first presentation on adding and expanding peer recovery specialists as staff. Despite this being a virtual meeting, we still want everyone to openly participate by asking questions and sharing experiences. Learning from one another is what the whole process is about, and our presentations are meant not only to inform, but to stimulate discussion. The presenters will try and leave about 15 minutes at the end of each session for questions and discussion. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can either post your question in the chat, and I'll read it for the presenters during that time, or you can raise your hand and I'll call on folks. Please remember to unmute yourself to ask your question and then mute yourself afterwards. All the presenters have agreed to let us record their session today. You should have seen the recording button when you logged in. Their presentations as well as their slides will be posted on the Friends website. Next slide, please, Zoe. Right. Our first session by Acting Warden Margaret Chippendale and Mr. Kevin Nock is entitled Adding Expanding Peer Recovery Specialists as Staff. HB 116 has specific considerations for including peer recovery specialists, including providing on-premises access to peers and covering the cost of an inmate seeking PRC certification. Next slide, please. As part of our baseline data collection for our NIDA-funded study, we conducted qualitative interviews with jail and community treatment site leads for the 10 jurisdictions participating in the project. Some of the topics that emerged from those interviews concerning PRCs included the benefits of them sharing their lived experiences with inmates, how the organization is prepared to bring them on as staff, the importance of providing professional support in their roles and activities, and issues surrounding their hiring and qualifications. Next slide, please. We're grateful for our first 2 presenters who will share their insights and experiences on this topic. Our first speaker is Acting Warden Margaret M. Chippendale of the Howard County Department of Corrections. Margaret Chippendale's 50-plus year career began with her employment at the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services in 1970 with the Division of Parole and Probation. Since that time, she's filled numerous important roles in state corrections, including serving on the Maryland Parole Commission, the Inmate Grievance Commission in Parole and Probation, the Acting Facility Administrator at the Baltimore City Correctional Center, Facility Administrator at the Baltimore Pre-Release Unit for Women, and the Jessup Pre-Release Unit, Assistant Warden of the Maryland Correctional Pre-Release System, and Warden at Maryland Correctional Institution for Women. In February 2021, Ms. Chippendale was transferred as Warden to the Maryland Correctional Pre-Release System, and in February 2022, she became Deputy Director with the Howard County Department of Corrections. As of last week, Ms. Chippendale is now officially the Acting Warden of the Howard County Detention Center. Our second speaker, Mr. Kevin Nock from the Maryland Office of Public Defender. Kevin Nock struggled for over 30 years to surrender and abstain from drugs and alcohol, finally stopping drug use with the help of Narcotics Anonymous. In 2015, Mr. Nock began his studies to become a certified peer recovery specialist. His first job was with Recovery Network as a peer outreach worker, where he discovered a passion for helping people who were just like him. He later became a registered peer supervisor and a forensic peer specialist, as well as a wellness recovery action plan facilitator. In 2017, Kevin started working for Baltimore Crisis Response, where he became the first peer in Maryland to work on law enforcement assistance diversion, or LEAD. In this capacity with LEAD, he was able to assist in diverting people from going to jail and getting their basic needs met. In 2019, Kevin became the very first peer to work for the Maryland Office of Public Defender, initially working in the Forensic Mental Health Division and currently in the Community Engagement Reentry Division.
Good morning, Shannon. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Howard County Detention Center. Shannon, thank you for my introduction. I'm not quite sure who all is on the call today, but many of you probably do know me from the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. I've only been here in Howard County for 10 months, and it has been a true learning experience for me because I can honestly say at DPSCS, I had interaction with House Bill 116, but with respect to peer recovery specialists, I was just getting off the ground when I was at the Women's Institution. So when I came here, it was a true learning curve. Fortunately for me, I have a tremendous staff here, and our peer recovery specialists, bar none, are just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about the history of how they came about here at Howard County, and talk about what they do for us here and the qualifications and so on and so forth. So hopefully what I will be sharing with you today will be impactful and will give you some ideas if you're not currently using peer recovery specialists, or are there other ways to use them better. So just a little bit about the history. The Howard County Detention Center collaborated with the Maryland State Health Department, located here in Howard County, in 2015 to begin using peer recovery specialists. At that time, they were primarily used to co-facilitate groups for our Bureau of Addictions. However, soon after that, we began using peers in other areas. And the concept to use them in the detention center was brought here to the administration, and our former administration grabbed onto it and just recognized what a benefit it was going to be to the jail and to the community. So in 2018, the detention center actually brought on their first peer recovery specialist to work here in the institution. And the gentleman who took on this position actually had been previously incarcerated in Howard County Detention Center numerous times. He was known in the state system as well. So he had a true understanding of the detention center and what it meant to be incarcerated. And certainly he was in recovery. What he brought to the table was nothing short of amazing. He was able to interact with the population here and helped with groups. He helped with one-on-one intervention with the detainees here, and then continued to follow them out into the community. This young man was so enlightening and so beneficial that he actually later became an employee of the Howard County Health Department, and that's where he remains today. He also does work, continues to do work for us here at the detention center, and in fact, he is the house manager for our transitional house. We have a transitional house here in Howard County in Columbia. It's a 4-bed transitional house, and Scott, our at that time our peer recovery specialist, became the house manager. So he monitors all activities in the house. He's part of the selection team for who goes into the house, and he follows them into the community. He ensures that they're working if they're supposed to be on work release. He is makes certain that they're in, whether it's drug intervention or alcohol intervention, that they're in AA, they're in NA, they're in any type of other substance abuse activities that he can find for them. So he's just been a remarkable individual. After Scott was brought on and we saw the benefit, the Howard County Department of Corrections decided, you know, it's time to bring some more folks on to do this work. We understand the benefit of it. So we've brought other individuals on in full-time capacity. They have an office here in the detention center. And they, again, they're interacting with the detainees on a daily basis. They follow them into the community. And they've actually just become part of our staff. We don't look at them as just an individual that's, you know, in recovery, but an individual who is really part of the staff and makes Howard County Detention Center grow and thrive, and ensures that our detainees grow and thrive, not only here in the facility, but certainly in the community. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the duties and the responsibilities. As you can see, is in our county, the position is called a Human Services Worker 1/corrections, but it is indeed a peer recovery specialist. And you can see the salary range from $17 to $31 annually, which equates to $35,000 to $65,000 annually. These peer recovery specialists truly advocate for the inmates. They come into the facility and they share with the inmates their own personal experience, what they've done to get through recovery, what they did here, whether it was in Howard County or in another institution, or perhaps in a substance abuse recovery center, but they talk about it and they share and they make it real. That really helps our clients to understand that we're here for them and that we want them to be successful. Our peer recovery specialists also meet with the facility staff regularly and the employees of the Howard County Health Department, which is our Bureau of Addictions. They talk about ways that we can reduce the barriers against them for recovery. We talk about how we're going to place them in the community. From time to time, our advocates or peer recovery specialists do provide testimony in court. We do have a recovery court here in Howard County. So our specialists are frequently in the courtroom while folks are being determined whether or not they're going to be released or they're going to come here, and how we're going to handle them in the recovery court setting. From time to time, our specialists transport individuals. If someone's leaving Howard County Detention Center and they need a ride home, or they need a ride to a therapeutic community, perhaps they're going to our Guilford House transition house, our recovery specialists will transport those individuals. They're available if the individual is out on the street and all of a sudden they're having a meltdown, a breakdown, and they don't know what to do. They can pick up the phone and call our specialists, and our specialists are there for them. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to say 24/7, because they will answer the phone at all hours, day and night, and even on the weekends. So they're really engaged in what they do, and they really want to do the right thing for their clients. We also use our recovery specialists to help us with our data collection, particularly with the Bureau of Addictions, you know, what type of programs we have them in, how many sessions they're going to, are they receiving, is it all group therapy, or is there one-on-one conversations, but they help us collect all that, and it's been a huge help for the health department. They help us conduct the screenings for the individuals that are going to participate in the programs. And they certainly help us co-facilitate some of our groups. Just want to talk a little bit, some other things about them. First of all, our peer recovery specialists do not go through the training academy to receive certification, but we understand the benefit needed for them to interact with detainees, to keep them safe, to make certain that our specialists understand the do's and don'ts, what they can bring in the institution so on and so forth. And when I say that, I'm talking about making certain that things that one might consider contraband doesn't make its way into the institution. So they go through some extensive orientation. They attend our in-service training annually with the rest of our staff, and they have 18 hours of mandatory training, plus any other training that they wish to take benefit of, whether it's here in the institution or where they're always encouraged to seek training outside in the community, going to conferences, so on and so forth. So we truly believe that we're preparing them as best we can to be the best that they can for this facility. One of the things that we did this year for the first time during National Recovery Month in September, our peers took it upon themselves, in conjunction with some staff members here, to create a conference. And we had an all-day conference where we brought people in from the community that were in recovery. Perhaps they had been incarcerated here in Howard County, perhaps they'd been incarcerated elsewhere, or perhaps they had just been in a rehab center. But they came in and they told their experiences to our population. We had a packed house that day with folks wanting to hear what the peers had to say and the people from the street had to say. The conference was so successful that we have decided to make it an annual event, and we will have it conducted each year in September during National Recovery Month. So that was just, one of the things that they took on their own and really assisted the facility. Couple of other things that our peers do. For example, I have a peer right now who's working on his Flagger Force certification. Once he receives that certification, he will be teaching classes inside the facility, both to the guys and the gals here, so that then when they leave here, they will be able to get a job as a flagger in the community. Just something extra that they wanted to take on, and we truly believe it will benefit us greatly. Our female peer, she has taken it upon herself to create a program we entitled Seeking Safety, and she meets with the female detainees weekly and talks about keeping them safe in the community. It's actually a precursor to a domestic violence course, but she took it upon herself to add that to our curriculum. We just continue to meet with our peer recovery specialists on a regular basis. We send them out into the community just to gather as much information as they possibly can and to assist us. They've taken on, to some degree, some role as case managers and do a lot of that. They help our reentry coordinators. We have a couple of reentry specialists, if you will, in the community that take care of our folks on work release and so on and so forth. And our peer recovery specialists also are their backup. All right, so you've heard a little bit about our expectations of their duties and their responsibilities. This screen that you're looking at now shows the minimum requirements or the education and or experience for our specialists. This is what would be on the county's website, and this is how we advertise for our peer recovery specialists. I would say to you that we, in my opinion, I don't think we have a hard time recruiting for this position. The peer recovery specialists that are here or perhaps have moved on because they've been promoted, they've taken on other duties or responsibilities elsewhere. They have enough involvement in the community that they're constantly referring people to us. So it's not unusual for me to receive a phone call from somebody in the community saying, Ms. Chippendale, if you ever have a vacancy, I'd love to apply for that position. And at that point, they, when a position becomes available, we refer them to the website and pretty much explain to them exactly what the expectations are. As a matter of fact, we have two specialists starting with us on the 19th of the month, because the two specialists that I have, my female, she did just take a promotional opportunity to the Howard County Health Department. And my other male peer recovery specialist, I just promoted him to become a reentry specialist. So there's clearly opportunity here in Howard County. We couldn't do this job without our peer recovery specialists, and they truly are part of our staff and part of our community. And Zoe, if you want to just bring up the next slide. The next two slides, I'm just going to share with you just a little bit more about how we have incorporated House Bill 116 with the Howard County Health Department, and again, utilization of our peer recovery specialists. They do interact and co-facilitate our groups with our BOA, our Bureau of Addictions. They assist the Bureau of Addictions with the expert, the screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment screenings. While that's not necessarily something that we've asked them to do, they have stepped to the plate and they assist us in any way possible, and any way possible that they can help Howard County Health Department. They've done that as well. And then the last screen, Zoe. Again, just a continuation of things that they're doing here, conducting the groups, helping us with the GIPRAs, and truly following the persons that they've met here inside the facility, following them into the community, and make certain that they are receiving the reentry services that they need out there in the community. Again, it was a true education for me when I came here, because I was not familiar with this type of work, but they've guided me through it. I'm most appreciative to them, and truly, 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 we could not do what we do here in Howard County and be as successful as we are with House Bill 116 without our peer recovery specialists. And I thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. That was really exciting to hear all of the opportunities and the benefits that Howard County has for people with lived experience who are trying to share that with others who are struggling with addictions. And that's a perfect segue to our next presenter, Mr. Kevin Nock. Kevin, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start off with the title of my presentation, The Intersectionality of Peer Support and Criminal Defense. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain, I'm going to walk you through the journey that I had becoming a peer, and what inspired me to become a peer, and the journey onto the position that I have today. Next slide, please. So I decided to add a little quote that I found, and I like this quote. Everyone is handed adversity in life. No one's journey is easy. It's how they handle it that makes people unique. And I like that, because what it says to me is, I went through a lot of things in my journey, and the things that I went through didn't change. What changed was my perception and how I reacted to the things that was going on around me. Next slide, please. So as my introduction said, I went through a number of years with a struggle with active addiction. And at the point in 2015, I was at a point in my life where I realized I needed to make some changes in my life, in order to sustain some substantial clean time, and I started realizing that I needed to do something different. And I seen these peer classes. I seen and heard about these peer classes, and I wanted to know more about them. So I started, looking around, and I found out about some opportunities for training, and I decided to sign up and see what it was all about. So through that process, I started volunteering for a lot of different things, within the community, and I signed up for the training. I did a lot of, I studied a lot of classes to get my certification. And what I realized was I wasn't just getting the certification. What I was really getting was some living skills. I was getting an understanding of me. And when I started to understand me and why I did what I did better, it enabled me to help other people who was just like me. Next slide, please. So in these trainings that I took, it led me to becoming a certified peer recovery specialist. I did a lot of trainings to get there, to enhance my certification. One of the trainings I took that was endorsement to my certification is a family peer endorsement to my certification, which enables me to, as well as meeting the person where they are, I was able to help them in the area of family and reunification with their family. I was able to help the family understand the person that was recovering and needed assistance. Because sometimes family, they want to be helpful, and sometimes they don't really understand what's going on. So I could be a little buffer between that. I also took what's called the forensic peer endorsement to my certification, which is really helpful to me today. I didn't realize I was just taking trainings. I didn't understand what all these trainings would actually mean and how they would help me in the future. But I took forensic peer endorsement to my certification, which enables me to be able to articulate to the person what the language that's being used in the judicial system in a way that they will understand it, because sometimes they're feeling kind of lost, or maybe not understand. And with my lived experience and my understanding of meeting them where they are, I was able to kind of translate that a little bit. I became a registered peer supervisor, and I'm a registered peer supervisor today. And I help to guide other people within their journey to becoming a certified specialist and maintaining the boundaries within the organizations that they work for. I became a RAP facilitator, and when I found out RAP, for anyone that doesn't know, means Wellness Recovery Action Planning. And this training, in my opinion, was more helpful for me, even though I'm qualified to be a facilitator. I use RAP in my own personal life, and it has helped me to sustain a quality of recovery. My most recent training is sequential interception mapping, SIM. And what that is, I haven't actually did any facilitating yet because it's very new. But what that will do is it will bring together different jurisdictions of defense, behavioral health, community partners, parole, probation, courts. And what that does is it takes you step by step through each intercept, and we're able to identify barriers and strengths to try to implement changes necessary to improve or add on to the process that's in place in order to help individuals. Okay, so some of the organizations that I worked for before where I am now, my first organization that I worked for was Recovery Network. And that introduced me to outreach. And through working at Recovery Network and outreach, I started to realize how much I really like being a peer. I've realized that I had a passion for this, and I really enjoyed helping people who were just like me, helping, the vulnerable population so that they could, try to get some stability in their life so that they could live a better quality life. I basically met people where they were. It wasn't a thing where I would tell them what they need. I would ask them what they need. And I would try to make whatever that need was happen. From Baltimore, from Recovery Network, I went to Baltimore Crisis Response. And I worked on the grant, I worked on a project called LEAD, and that stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. And what that is, it's a diversion program where it can be a social referral or it could be an arrest referral. And those arrests came from officers in the community when they make minor misdemeanor arrests, and then the individual was vetted. When I say vetted, that we had a person from the public defender's office and the state's attorney's office that would check the background out. And if they were eligible for our program, they was given the opportunity not to get arrested, but to become part of LEAD. And if they chose to become part of LEAD, then that arrest was put on the shelf, and they was able to get all the resources necessary for them to get their needs met. It wasn't like, we forced anyone into anything. We met them where they are, and we addressed the needs that they told it when they told us what they needed. So from there, I went to the public defender's office where I am now. And can we go back to that slide before this one? So I'm currently at the Maryland Office of Public Defender. And my current title here is Administrative Peer Professional for the Community Engagement Division. When I first came to the Office of Public Defender, I was on a grant called Justice Mental Health Collaboration Project. And what I did there was similar to what I did at LEAD, but opposite. What I worked with mental health individuals that was arrested and did a non-clinical screening to address their needs so that the attorney could better assist them in their cases and offer resources based on that screening, so that the whole goal was to cut down recidivism. Because what we found out was that there was a lot of mental health that was being criminalized. And so our goal was to give them the tools necessary to get the needs that they needed met, so that they wouldn't keep going back and forth to jail based on their mental illness. And some education with the individual and the judicial system. So what I do now in the community engagement role is I meet with inmates in the jail and in the community, and I do a non-clinical screening there as well. And I work closely with my colleagues at the Community Engagement Division to determine the best community partner fit to handle that individual based on that screening. And we have several community partners, and we go out and we find different community partners and levels of care that can best handle the people that we send, because all programs don't meet the needs of all our clients. So we go out and we find those programs necessary to become community partners, and they go through, those community partners go through a vetting process. We ask several questions. We look at their qualifications and how they treat their clientele. And we also look at the program and how it's run. And also I conduct follow-up visits. Well, we all could conduct follow-up visits with the to see how they're doing. You know, we make visits to organizations. You know, right now I have a group of people that I visit with at an organization for our clients that's coming. That was arrested when they were teenagers, and now they're adults. You know, but they were sentenced as juveniles, and they was never going to come home. But after 20 and 30 years, my colleague, my supervisor, worked hard on legislation along with some other people to get legislation passed so that they would be able to come home. So the hard work that, you know, people before me did at the public defender's office, it paid off, and now we have people that's coming home, and bi-weekly I meet with them and to see what needs that they have and how they're adjusting, because they're adjusting to coming back into society, you know, and there's many needs that they have. So we work hard on making sure that we can get those needs met so that they can have a better quality of life on this side and not go back. So in closing, I just want to say that, you know, I just every day try to do the best I can to help the people that I'm working with so that they can get a chance to live the life that I'm living today, or the life that they need to live for themselves. I never dreamed that this would be the life that I would live. I spent many years utilizing the public defender's office, and now work for the public defender's office, and that's very gratifying, you know. And you know, some days I'm just really blown away at how far I've came and where I'm at today, you know, and just not only making a difference in my life, but inspiring other people to make a difference in theirs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That was really inspiring and fantastic to hear your journey and the ways in which what you've learned both through your life and then through the trainings that you've received are enhancing your ability to help others in that process. Mm-hmm. We now have about 15 minutes for questions and comments and discussions. Just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, just use the reaction button at the bottom and raise your hand so that I can see you and call on you, and then remember to unmute yourself when you're called on. Or you can add questions to the chat. I know there have been some wonderful kudos and comments to both of our presenters so far in the chat about the wonderful work being done in Howard County and the inspiring story that Kevin just shared with everyone and the work that he's done at RAP and Office of Public Defender. Anyone have a question or a comment, or if any of the presenters have questions or comments for one another?
Shannon, I just wanted to give a shout out, like everyone else has been doing, to Kevin, because what he does is so inspirational. And it's just good to know that it's in other places beyond here in Howard County, because what he has just shared is what I see every day from my recovery specialists here. It's amazing work. And it's just wonderful that people are willing to share.
If we don't have a question, I actually have a question, and it's kind of for both of you. And it's this issue of people who are peer recovery specialists kind of straddling both a clinical and a supervision role in some way, with, leading, co-facilitating recovery support type groups, and then being in more of a supervision role in terms of data collection or drug testing or checking in with folks, and how your experiences with peers and the way that they're guided and supervised helps them straddle that, because that can be a very tricky process to navigate. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that.
Well, from our perspective in Howard County, I think the collaboration that we have with the Howard County Health Department has made us hugely successful. They've kind of guided us through this. And then the fact that they work so closely with the reentry specialists, and they get to see what the recovery specialists do and how they handle themselves inside the institution and out in the community. I just think a lot of it's just kind of modeling the way, and our recovery specialist peers have just taken it on and made it part of their own persona. I don't really see that there's been a difficult transition for them to move from at one time, perhaps being a detainee to now supervising and detainees or giving them guidance or working with them. It's just been so smooth. And I owe a lot of that credit to the work with the health department and just the other staff here at Howard County that have made our peers feel so special.
Thank you.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, just speaking to the issue of filling both a therapeutic recovery support role and then sort of being a representative of the a correctional institution and having some oversight and drug testing and assessments and things like that in the community. If there are challenges with navigating those different kinds of roles as a peer.
Well, I haven't had experience yet of working inside of the correctional institution, but I have visited the individuals that I need to help at the point of while they're being detained. As far as I heard you mention about the organizations and clinical, and basically, I've learned how to sort of, with my understanding of what a peer is and what a peer isn't, sometimes I have to also allow other people to understand that as well, because they're, if not, sometimes we can go on to areas that we don't belong, so to speak, because we're not clinical, and I'm very careful not to overstep into that and out of that boundary. At the same time, still giving the quality of care and meeting the individual where they are, and as well as anyone that I've worked with or supervised, helping them to understand that as well. Because as a peer, I'm really a complement to the clinical staff. I'm able to do the things that, and not to say that they can't do, but they have a different role. And in my role, I'm more hands-on with the person, meeting them where they are, helping them with resources, collaborating with the clinical staff so that we can give the best care possible and get them to the best level of care that's going to help them sustain a quality of life that's going to help them in their recovery. So it's more collaboration than anything. I don't. That's it. Just collaborate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was echoed by some of our attendees as well, is that Shanice Anderson said collaboration is key, and I'm sure it is, particularly with the coordination process that's so important in terms of people leaving detention and trying to resume their lives in the community. There was a question from Shanice Anderson. How can we advocate for HB 116? And I'm assuming that's related to the peer recovery specialists that are a part of the legislation. I don't know if you all have thoughts on specifically ways in which peers can be integrated into correctional settings to be in compliance with HB 116. I know you spoke a little bit about this, Margaret.
I just wanted to say that I think all of us have the responsibility to be in contact with our political arena to talk about this and show the benefit. I always recommend, and I invite any of you that may be on this call, that if you want to see the peers in action, pick up the phone or email me at Howard County and shadow us for a day. See what they truly do. Talk to them. Talk to the detainees and the individuals in the community that they actually assist. But the big thing is just making the folks in Annapolis and at the federal level know how important it is towards, I don't want to say ever eliminating this disease, but certainly decreasing and understanding the value of a recovery specialist as we move forward to help folks that are in addiction. We just got to educate.
Well said. We have a question that was put in the chat by Laura Stewart Webb. Kevin, would you say as an RPS that a peer specialist also seeks to stay away from power differentials that put the peer specialist in an enforcement or compliance position, as well as be careful ethically as a peer to stay away from discussions about diagnosis, etc.?
Yes, that would be true. As a peer specialist, I don't get into, I let the professionals be professionals in their field. I don't get into a diagnosis and, share information with anyone that it's not supposed to be shared with, and would encourage anyone that I supervise to act accordingly, because we have ethical boundaries as well that we need to adhere to. And we stay in our lane. That's the best way that I can put that. There are times when the situations arise where I may question something, and I have a mentor myself that I call on a regular basis when something come up, and and I need guidance. So when it comes to those type of things, we kind of stay in the position that we are. We're not therapists or psychiatrists or doctors. We let them do their job. I hope that answered that correctly, Lloyd.
Yep. That was a thank you. Yes. Looks like we have time for one more question. If anyone would like to raise their hand and ask their question or drop it in the chat, we've got 5 more minutes on this part of the Tiffany Scott says Baltimore City is in true need of peers, and it sounded like that program is still being developed. I know there are several jurisdictions where they're maybe not as far along in terms of utilizing and integrating peer recovery specialists in their correctional facility yet. I don't know if there's anyone from other jurisdictions that are on the Learning Collaborative today that are still working on that might have any specific questions for Acting Warden Chippendale regarding that. Larry Stewart says that Montgomery County has a commitment to peer recovery specialists and integrating that. That's fantastic.
Actually, Sharon, if I could just jump in as a comment I wanted to make, it's been an incredible experience having peers. And there's just, talk about a multidisciplinary treatment team. The peers come in and approach folks from, just a slightly different perspective that sometimes is better received and is so helpful to clients, particularly in sustaining and maintaining contact to treatment. But the one comment I wanted to make was the struggles we've had with, getting peers authorized to be in the facility, because sometimes they also come with backgrounds that, don't make passing a security clearance for entering a correctional facility easy. And so we've had a number of very competent, qualified, trained, skilled peers that really weren't able to do the job because they weren't able to pass the correctional facility. So I'm wondering if other jurisdictions are running into that same problem. And, if we can't just kind of get that on the agenda for problem solving to figure out ways to be more inclusive of folks that, yes, have had a history, but, are at a position in life to, be doing something different and positive and helpful. So I just wanted to put that out, but I'm so grateful to peers, and I really look forward to, as you suggested, Montgomery County having a commitment to expanding our peer workforce. We just underwent, we're actually, today's the last day of CARF accreditation, and the CARF accreditors were like, you need more peers, you need more peers, you need more peers. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in absolute agreement.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Last question, George Neely says, how successful is the training for those individuals currently incarcerated learning to become PRSs before being released from jail? That's a great question, because that is part of the legislation about encouraging people to become peer recovery specialists at that sort of critical juncture in their life. I don't know if anyone on today's call can speak to basically recruiting new peer recovery specialists.
I'd like to speak on that. We at the Office of Public Defenders are proud to have an individual working for us now that received their certification behind the walls. And they hold a position at the Public Defender's Office today, and it's doing very well. So they are able to get their credentials before coming home and have an opportunity to be successful.
Great. It looks like we have actually Monica White has raised her hand. Monica, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, we got just a couple minutes left. That'd be great.
Sure. I just wanted to comment on the question that was asked regarding peers getting trained behind the walls. I am currently the interim president of the Certification Board for Peers in Maryland. And just to be able to give you a little quick history, in 2016, we started the process of certifying peers behind the walls. We had 13 individuals engaged in that training process. 6 of them are still currently hold a certification in the Eastern Shore Correctional Facility. We then moved that process to the women's facility at MCIW. We have several individuals who started their process behind the walls and have since come home and become certified in Maryland. So we have 4 of them that are returning citizens who came home and became certified. We are currently working with JCI behind the walls, and it is 17 peers who have been trained behind the walls at JCI that are coming home, and we will in the next month or so facilitate their examination behind the walls so that they will be able to acquire their certification while incarcerated and then be able to bring that certification home. I work closely with a couple of the case managers in the correctional system to be able to allow those who are still incarcerated to maintain their certifications while still behind the walls. So this is a very successful project. We again are working real diligently to not only educate individuals and get them certified behind the walls, but to support them after they come home and maintain certification and become employable in the community upon release.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a couple people asking for you to drop your contact information in this chat. So if you can do that, that would be much appreciated. That's really encouraging. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to go ahead, and I want to thank our presenters, Acting Warden Margaret Chippendale and Mr. Kevin Nock, for sharing and leading that discussion. And kudos to the wonderful work you guys are doing.